and thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn Tech Surgery. My name is Helen Owens-Pope. I'm responsible for global marketing here at Loop1, and I'll be facilitating things behind the scenes today, hopefully keeping things on track and making sure things run smoothly. Before we get underway today, and I hand you over to today's presenters, just like to run through a few housekeeping items. Jerry, if you could advance the slide. Fabulous. So our aim for this session was to keep it as interactive as possible. For that purpose, we've kept the attendee size fairly small. We can open the phone lines up if people do want to ask questions live, or you can drop them into the Q&A panel. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll share a link with attendees, typically within about 48 hours, together with a copy of the slides we're presenting today. As I said, your audio will be muted. However, we can open the lines up should you wish to ask a question live, particularly when we get to some of the demo content. It can be nice to have that interactive, and Greg can certainly show you some of the items on the spur of the moment. You can submit questions via the Q&A panel. Any technical difficulties, can send a chat message to me. I think I'm either listed as host or Helen Owens in the chat. And then please tell us how we did at the end today just by completing the feedback survey. Okay, and with that, I will leave you in the very capable hands of Jerry. Over to you, Jerry.
Lovely. Thanks, Helen. Appreciate that. And thanks everybody for joining. My name is Jeremy Holifield, known as Jerry to most of the world. I've been an account manager now with Loop1 for just over 2 years. Been within the IT industry for a lot longer, as you can tell by my increasingly greying hair. But thanks for joining today. I have a couple of esteemed colleagues joining me today. First of all, Greg Forsyth, who's a colleague of mine within Loop1. Would you like to introduce yourself, Greg?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Greg. I'm the technical account manager for the EMEA region. I've come from a technical background with SolarWinds and a number of the monitoring tools through a few different roles in the industry as well. So hopefully I'll be able to assist you with any sort of technical guidance here.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we're absolutely delighted to be joined by Charles Damerell from SolarWinds. Charles, would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Grandiose invite, position. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate that. No, hi everyone. My name is Charles Damerell from SolarWinds, as Jerry pointed out. I run our UK and Irish operation, and yeah, looking forward to sort of hanging out with you guys and just seeing and addressing any questions, queries, etc. that come from the group.
Thanks, Charles. Thanks, Greg. And thanks again for everyone joining. So today's session, I think it's going to be as interactive as we can make it, depending on numbers. So I believe the way we're going to run today, if you have any questions, you want to jump in, obviously put them in the chat box. We may be looking to open up the communication line so we can actually speak to you later on in the session. So we'll see how that goes. So going straight in then, the next slide that we have on the screen here, I just wanted to take the time to introduce the company really to anyone that isn't familiar with us. I'm sure, as is often the case on these sorts of sessions that we have a mix of existing customers, maybe people that have been with us for some years, and thank you for that. We appreciate your loyalty. Maybe some recent customers that have joined us, thank you again, and even people that aren't currently doing business with us. So we hope to obviously work with you in the future. So this is really a kind of a stats slide on Loop1 as an organization. Our head office is based out in the States. Loop1 as a business really has been partnered with SolarWinds now since 2009. The company based in the UK, which Loop1 took over, that's been partnered with SolarWinds for a lot longer than that, in excess of 20 years now. So there's a tremendous amount of experience within the organization. And as we've got there, we have in excess of 25 fully qualified SolarWinds Certified Professionals, holding a fairly staggering 130 certifications. And I think I'm right in saying that we actually have the most qualified engineer worldwide within the organization. I won't embarrass him for announcing his name, but he's been with the business a very long time. In terms of engagements, again, pretty impressive stats, over 4,500 professional engagements. The services side we'll look into a lot more in detail during this session today. Worldwide, we are a global organization. So we cover multiple continents, and we've got in excess of 100 employees. That figure obviously varies. We've seen a tremendous amount of growth in the couple of years I've worked with the organization, and we're based in 5 main sites. Our head office is in Texas. We are obviously here in the UK. We have offices throughout Europe. And an average experience of 7+ years there for each engineer. Obviously our main partner is SolarWinds, but you will see a couple of other names on the bottom there. Runcast specifically, that's a fairly recent announcement, and obviously we can talk to anybody in more detail. I think where we've got sort of partnerships outside of SolarWinds, they're very much to complement what we're doing with SolarWinds. So just really enhance our kind of solutions and service portfolio that we already have. So really, SolarWinds is our core business, always has been, always will be. So we're just looking to enhance what we're doing already there. Okay, moving on to the next slide. I believe we're going to hand over to, we're going to do a poll. So we've got a poll here, which really is kind of just asking people, their kind of main role within their organization. So maybe we'd like to take a minute there just to put some answers in.
Yep, it's dropping down now, Jerry. So
Thank you.
we've got a few network engineers, some systems administrators,
Brilliant.
a couple of monitoring specialists, some IT managers and directors. So quite a mix of roles there. So 25, 24, 23 seconds and counting. A few more seconds to get your responses in.
I'll wait for the checkered flag before we move on.
I will share the results as well, but I'm not quite sure who actually gets to see them. So I will sit here and make sure
Lovely.
I do my best to act as the conduit.
There was a little clue there as to how I'm spending the coming weekend with the checkered flag and heavy Formula One fans around. It's been an amazing season. But let's not dwell
Absolutely,
on that.
down to the wire.
Okay, we good to move on?
We're good to move on.
Thank you, Helen. Right, okay, so at this point, going to move on to, there we go. So I'm going to pass the reins over to yourself, Charles, if I may. Rather scarily for you, I'm still in control of the slide, so just give me a prompt when you're ready to move on, if you would, sir. And we've got some information up on the screen here. If that's okay, if I could pass over to you to maybe talk us through the first slide, please. You're on mute,
Charles, you're on mute.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Do we have the mute £1 pot?
Yeah, we have a pound in the pot rule for use. Yeah, so it's all going to go in the Christmas fund.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was just thinking actually before I jumped on, the conversations yourself and me, Glenn, etc., had around this session. We've got 3 slides in here for SolarWinds, which is great. However, I also just wanted to leave it a little bit flexible, and indeed, I know we're going to do some Q&A and some other bits and pieces. Just provide that opportunity for folks to really just kind of dig into a couple of specific areas as they require. I think, as we look at the last 12 months from a UK and an Irish perspective for SolarWinds, there are probably really kind of 2 main sort of areas that I've been spending most of my time in, and certainly working really closely with the Loop1 team in. And the first is, back to December the 13th, we were effectively breached, and a significant cyber breach at that. Again, I mentioned that, and I'm quite happy and indeed comfortable to talk to that particular event, because, you know, right at the outset, we were very clear about how we would actually be able to address it. We were not going to batten down the hatches and keep quiet. We were actually going to step in and be very open and communicate what was happening. But I think, you know, 12 months on, and that's the benefit that we now have, is 12 months on, when we take a look back at that journey, what we actually see in terms of the things that we have done to not only address the breach, but more importantly, to build a secure by design business that fundamentally is focused obviously at an enterprise software level as a vendor, but ensuring that we really have that kind of belts and braces approach to our security adoption and indeed to that security landscape. And I think proof in the pudding, because again, you know, just cutting to the chase, if you look at our renewal rates, and keep in mind we run both a perpetual as well as a subscription business, you know, our renewal rates are running at 94% in the UK, which compared to most perpetual licenses and subscription-based models is right at the top of what is capable, and that's where we're at. So customers are re-engaging with us, and they have a choice. You know, we have competitors, they have a choice, but they're choosing to re-engage with us and to continue the relationship. And then secondly, if we look at the growth in the last 12 months within the UK, we are growing our business. We are up year on year in terms of our growth, but more importantly, we're starting to see quite a dynamic shift now in the marketplace. And the couple of slides that I've got will talk a little bit to that, but that shift sees us now moving, building on what we've established over the last several years, but now certainly moving into more complex environments. We're seeing much larger engagements, whether that be at an infrastructure level with the likes of a network rail, or whether we continue to build upon our successful government business. And, you know, to that point, we've had certainly our largest ever order outside of North America placed literally in the last few months from a key central government organization to replace and refresh, you know, what was in essence quite a multifaceted monitoring and management environment with a new enhanced observability platform. So I think I mentioned that because again, that really is the kind of, without any selling, without any, you know, sort of window dressing, those are the things that really talk to and hopefully provides, you know, some additional reassurance, and more importantly builds on the confidence that I think our customers, and we have several thousand of them across in the UK, continue to invest and work with SolarWinds. So in terms of the three slides we put in here, certainly the first one that we're looking at here is, you know, we clearly have a broad, very extensive range. And again, if we just anchor that back into what's important for the folks on this particular round table, there's going to be lots of different organizations, different sizes of those businesses, different complexities, etc. I think if we take a sort of a helicopter view and you look at the top trends that we're seeing certainly through this year, and we will see as we go into 2022, we're seeing that ability to manage hybrid and multi-cloud infrastructures, the need to do that seamlessly and incorporate the services that are there is going to be really top of the list. We know too that modernizing applications and service delivery is going to be important, and at the same time many of you on this call are being asked to do that, but at the same time support your existing traditional applications and databases and infrastructure. We're seeing a need to improve the operational elements of monitoring, and whether we coin the term efficiency of sorts, or whether it's just limiting that sprawl or that spread that seems to come from trying to find the right tool in that moment to bring into the organization. And with that comes just an additional level of complexity and cost. And I think it's that complexity ultimately that what we're trying to do is reduce some of the noise, that I guess kind of really starts feeding into the organization, particularly around IT response and collaboration and efficiencies and all of that good stuff. And the key to it then is, in terms of how we address that with what we're looking at here, is not lots and lots of different pillars or different modules of products, but to actually start pulling it together into a seamless solution so that it's flexible in the first instance, so that it certainly is high performance for those environments, for those networks that need it, but also predictable, solid in terms of the infrastructures and the applications. We're adding new aspects to that, whether that be from an AI ops point of view, through to providing a level of deeper insights. And we're starting to move now into some of those behavioral and service level areas, so that we can start pulling out data that's relevant and presenting that data in a way and a format that can be worked on. And I think, again, in terms of what we're looking at here from this overall infrastructural platform, the need for us to be able to support leading application and database environments, massively distributed sort of data visibility across various landscapes. And then we're into that kind of controlling consistency and making sure that we establish some form of faster mean time resolution. We've got to be presenting the data in a way that can be acted upon. And so, again, for many of you that might be on this call and responsible for those internal and external service level agreements, being able to help you achieve that. And I think overall, we have certainly seen, if there's one key piece around all of this, it's this idea of reducing tool complexity. And by doing that, you reduce your cost, you reduce, I think what's often referred to as sort of implementation friction, where you're trying to get various different products to fit together and work together. And then more importantly, ensuring that you can pull then all of that data, all of that relevant monitoring insight into, if you like, a sort of single view or pane of glass that you can then act on. Next slide, please, Jerry. There we go. Great. So this is exactly, to the point, when you look at this, quite a broad range, quite an in-depth range of various modules, pillars, if you will, that forms what in the SolarWinds world is our ITOM product. Our job and what we've been working on effectively this year to now launch for next year is to simplify that. And if you move on to the next slide, Jerry, please. What we want to be able to do is literally, as we think about, left to right, as I'm looking at the slide here, so monitoring, clearly we still need to be doing that. There's a clear requirement. It needs to mature in terms of how it gets done. Why? Because we're talking about hybrid and multi-cloud environments. We're talking about the need to modernize and enhance what's already there. But this other idea of just being able to provide a full, all-encompassing stack from a management point of view is becoming really, really important. And so if we can take that piece, that monitoring piece, and actually start moving it along this maturity model, which certainly the guys will talk to from Loop1. We've been working really closely with them around this whole idea of maturity in this space. What we're really doing is then moving to something that is just a lot more elegant for our user in terms of the experience. It's certainly something that can be acted upon and used and leveraged more effectively. And then ultimately what we're getting into then is some of those great kind of efficiencies, if you like, some of the insights that can be derived from that. I think just to kind of pull wrap this up and pull it together, and certainly for Jerry and Greg, if we need to delve further into this, then more than happy to do that. But I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for you guys to sort of talk to your elements. But I think what I would leave you with, and what we've been working on really hard over the 12 months, as we've been launching and developing and implementing our Secure by Design, we've also been having just a good, clean, fresh look at our monitoring tools, and trying to figure out, how do we make them more cross-domain? How do we improve service delivery insight? How can we create these operational kind of insights, dependencies, or even a level of predictability that can just feed through to the organization, to the user that is managing that. And I think, again, coming back to this point, as we look into next year, and we've only got a few weeks to go, what you'll be seeing from us will very much be a refresh around insights, automated analytics. You'll see an element, as I said earlier on, of AI ops, which is really across the massive sort of real-time and historical metrics and logs and everything that we can pull from our various products and software. Adding machine learning, which in itself is pretty cool, because what we're going to be doing there is using algorithms to learn from real-time and historical data. And what you get from that then is some really neat ways of identifying patterns, maybe something around being able to interrogate the insights that we're getting. And you also get a level of predictability. We can start predicting events and enable perhaps automated action-based tasks around some of those things. So we've got certainly, from an observability point of view, we've got some fantastic things to talk to you more about, and you'll certainly be seeing from a positioning and a marketing and a technical perspective a lot more around this particular area for us for next year. Jerry, if I do a quick check-in with you, enough time? What would you like to do? Move on or spend a bit more time in any of the other sort of areas we've discussed?
I was quite fascinated by what you went through there, and I think it says to me that SolarWinds is not a company that ever stands still. Some amazing, innovative technologies and solutions coming through there. I guess it would be kind of polite to maybe open it up to the audience at this stage. Perhaps there's some questions from our attendees today for you, Charles. Helen, do we have anything in the chat there? I don't see anything my end. People are being shy, or I'm just not seeing them.
Nothing's come through as yet, Jerry, but yeah, happy to open the lines or take questions via either chat or the Q&A panel. Yeah, whichever you feel more comfortable doing. We can always come back and revisit it if you want a little bit of time to sort of gather your thoughts and think about what you might want to ask Charles, and we can revert back to that.
Hey, Helen, I think Steve Hale, in actual fact, just as I was looking down at the screen, Steve's raised a really good point. So to that, the idea is to actually have that built into the existing platform. The reason for that is that we're kind of almost, dare I say, almost missed the idea that there's just this tremendous opportunity for, I suppose, kind of almost like a massive real-time analysis across both real-time and the historical metrics, and everyone that's using SolarWinds will just have a sense of just the amount of data and the logs available to us. So as we think about the logs and the trace data, what we very quickly kind of got into, and it's kind of almost not rocket science. The idea would be is, why the heck wouldn't you want to then leverage some of the sort of AI frameworks, which we know our friends across in the cloud side, whether it be Microsoft Azure or AWS or Google even, we know that there's plenty of AI development work going there. And as we combine that then to an operational perspective, it gave us, if you like, quite a significant step up in terms of just being able to do a bit more. But Steve, think about it also in terms of AI ops, and not separate, but also working in conjunction with some of the machine learning, because machine learning can reduce and sort of almost classify some of the anomalies that are coming up by sort of processing. I don't know, it might be operational trends, time of day, things like that. But then what it gets to do is you can also overlay then and have it exclude certain outliers. So it might, things like an IP ping scan or something like that. So when you pull AI ops, and AI ops is then leveraging the machine learning, you get into some fantastic sort of automated domain specific IT operation. And that's the stuff that, certainly, our engineering and development team are getting pretty juiced about at the moment. So yeah, great. Thanks for the question, Steve.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the answer, Charles. Any other questions we can see there on the panel, guys?
You've got another one, which is great. That's absolutely just coming to the.
Okay, so yeah, let's move on at that point then. So our next slide that we have on here is focusing on Lime. Can you guys all hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jerry.
Lovely, that's good. So we're talking about something that we call Lime. As you see about halfway down the slide there, we've got the full name of the solution, the Loop1 Monitoring Maturity Model, which we've abbreviated to L1M3 and abbreviated further to Lime, hence the colouring. Thank you, Helen. This is really looking at how we can assist customers with the tools that they have in place, and also making sure that everything is what we call feature complete. And it kind of fits in with something I think you said earlier on, Charles, actually, implementation friction, which is a new one on me. I'm definitely going to nick that one off you. It's related to this. We're basically, we do a lot of assessments with existing SolarWinds customers, and we're going to look at those services later on today. And one thing that we find quite often is that people are not getting the full use of what they have already set up. So this is where we can assist you further, maximize the investment, make sure the tools are feature complete, make sure people are getting the best out of these feature showcases, it says there. So we're going to talk about Lime in a bit more detail later on in the presentation. But it was just a kind of opportunity to jump in there. Maybe Greg, if you're with us there, did you want to say anything further at this point about Lime?
I mean, with Lime, it's a whole methodology really, rather than just a model. We do a lot there to make sure that you're covering every base. We often see that people put in a platform and think that they have a monitoring solution, where there's a lot more to it than just putting in a tool and walking away and hoping that everything will work. So Lime really does help get you to a much more mature state in your monitoring platform.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And we are going to go into this in more detail later on in today's presentation. So let's leave that there for the moment, kind of just dangling the carrot a little bit. Our next slide is another poll. So at this point, we're actually going to ask you what kind of products that you're using. So Helen, can I pass the reins over to you just to run this again and get that checkered flag out?
You can indeed. I've opened the
Lovely.
poll, so we've got some answers coming through now. Again, quite a broad mix, as you'd expect, a lot on the network management side, systems management, application management, database management. Not seeing IT security or ITSM come through as yet, though.
That's interesting. Okay. I'm going to take this opportunity to answer Jim Anstey's question. Actually, I will be watching the race on Channel 4, unfortunately, so I have to stay away from all the media to make sure I don't get the result too early. Come on, Lewis.
Okay, about 15 seconds left. I think most people have answered now, though, Jerry. So, yeah, a split between the top four, really: network, systems, application, and database.
Oh, database interesting. We can talk about that in a bit more detail. There's a lot of new technologies and solutions coming through from the SolarWinds camp around database, and again we've got the advantage of having Charles with us today, so we can happily discuss that later on in the Q&A. Okay, thanks everybody for participating in our second poll. Right, Greg. Time to take the stage. I'm going to pass over to you, sir, and I know that you'd like to talk to us about 3 key areas of technology, starting with Orion Maps. So over to you, Greg, if I may.
Awesome, thanks, Jerry. So this is one of those parts of one of those features in the tool that I see a lot of people aren't yet taking advantage of, and where they are taking advantage of are not possibly using it to its full advantage. I really think it's important to get that visual representation of your platform or your estate, even just for that quick glance up to look at your overall estate. When you're consuming data, having loads of different views and alerts and lots of text, it can be quite mind-numbing to sort of consume all that data. So using things like Orion Maps, I find it really easy, one, to let people see how your topology sits, as well as see the state of everything at a live-ish sort of level. These do auto-generated maps. We can travel back in time. We can include whatever we want on the maps. We can use our custom properties. We can use different sensors. We can use the states. We can use the interfaces. And we can use everything from different modules, the storage, the applications, and the network devices as well. So it is well worth looking at that and building out maps that fit the different parts of your environment, different applications, different parts of the network, to really get a good full view of what's going on in your topology. Do you want to just click on for me, Jerry? And this is another one. This is one where I'm doing reviews of people's platforms, and nobody seems to be using the tools like PerfStack. And PerfStack as a troubleshooting tool is incredibly powerful. Being able to create your custom graphs and correlate metrics from multiple different systems or from different modules as well, to pull all those in together to get a good view of your service stack. It does make a real difference, and it can reduce that MTTR time, which is what monitoring is there to be doing, to help us reduce those times. So being able to pull those in and being able to look at real time as well for troubleshooting, being able to share those reports so you can all be looking at the same data live, ad hoc, it makes a real difference in reducing that time to get incidents fixed, as well as identifying where the issue lies or what the cause is by correlating the different metrics and seeing what metrics are causing the rest of the metrics to be impacted. I really think this is important for collaborating across teams, for answering that question, is it the network, is it the application? Tools like this are really powerful to be able to get that answer quickly, so you're not wasting resource across your whole operations teams, to make sure you get visibility of everything. I would advise that you create these things. I mean, you've got the ability to jump into them and build them on the fly, but creating these prior to any incidents, building up ones for your MPLS or building up ones for your applications can make a real difference in monitoring your platforms. Let's flick me on, Jerry. And this one as well. This one sort of marries up well with PerfStack. This is going to give you that visibility of what metrics or what devices have relationships with other devices, and that really helps again identify the root cause of an issue or what is impacted by a potential outage. We often see that people look at outages or alerts as an individual node or an individual item and don't think to pull in all the different parts of the service that's actually being monitored. And that gives us a good visibility. We can drill down, we can identify what's linked to what. as well as having the ability to troubleshoot what's actually going on. I would always look to use this and build these out for your applications. It comes with the SAM, the VMAN, SRM, and WPM. So you can easily create these, build them out, and pinpoint the proper root cause for any issue that you're having. Okay, Jerry. And finally, yeah, a little touch on scalability. I often talk to clients who either scale out incorrectly or don't know how to scale out. And scaling out is matters when you're growing, but also for your reliability and stability of the platform, giving you a bit more resilience. That scalability allows you to be more resilient if you want to have, HA, you want to have additional polars. But there's one that I seem to touch on quite a lot recently, and that's the additional web servers. Often people are sat using the Orion server, it's getting hammered. The cost of additional polar is expensive, as we know. So trying to reduce some of that load on the Orion server is something that people seem to want to do quite a lot. And for the cost of an additional web server, I mean, we're talking cheap. You can implement an additional web server and offload all of that web traffic from your Orion server and allow it to be a management tool that it's meant to be, and put all your web traffic onto a separate server. I mean, the advice is that you scale that out as you grow, as you reach a certain number of users, you would implement one. But I think that implementing these at any size of business is really important to make sure you're getting the best performance out of your platform, and the best user experience as well. Whether you're using the web servers as an additional tool, or if you want to use it as a localized to allow the people to have better access, a better user experience when accessing the platform from multiple locations on, say, global clients. So I really think that making use of the additional web server at the very minor cost that it costs can add some real value very quickly to everyone's platforms. You want to click on for me, Jerry? Okay, so what we've been looking at recently is something that I've sort of come up with in the last few sort of months, is this monitoring maturity workshop. And like I mentioned before, we see a lot of people, they put a platform in and they assume they have a monitoring solution. And that isn't really the way it works. And I constantly see people falling into the same trap. The monitoring tool sits in the corner, it's unloved, nobody wants to use it, it's not giving them value. And that tends to be because they assume putting the tool in fixes all their problems, and they don't put any process or rules of engagement around the platform. So what we've done now is we've looked to do a monitoring maturity workshop, which isn't tool specific. It's a monitoring workshop, bit of consultancy to talk around and help define those processes for change, those processes for incident management, for RCAs, for the rules of engagement, as well as helping define real monitoring requirements. One of the other issues that we see clients fall into is they've not got the right thresholds, or there's too much noise or not enough noise. Or in terms of application monitoring, they're looking at monitoring services rather than what the service is doing. If a service is there to monitor, to migrate files around in a folder structure, then we can monitor for the service being up or down. But if that service hangs, we need to be able to monitor for what it's meant to be doing, because that's going to stay up. We're not going to see an alert, but the application will be down. So we're helping here to get clients in a position where they can ask the right questions, to get the right data, and then help transform that into real monitoring, alerting, dashboards, and rules as well. I see this being picked up quite a lot recently, and it doesn't matter how mature you are. I think this helps, and it's adaptable to meet your needs. Some people may need a day or two of monitoring maturity workshops. Other people may want to do 10 days of monitoring maturity workshops, and we'll actually go in, define, and help create everything that they need to make their platform into a solution. Okay, Jerry?
Brilliant. Thank you, Greg. And the next slide that we have in the sequence is going to start looking into our services in a bit more detail. But before we jump in, I can see a question from Steve Hale. Sharing Orion maps is my main issue. I don't seem to be able to share them with users easily unless I create views. Could I put that one to yourself, Greg, to answer?
Yeah, I mean, currently it is not as simple as we'd like it to be. I think there has been some feature requesting to make that easier. It doesn't allow people to edit maps that other people have made. So I think there is still room to grow in there from the SolarWinds side. And currently we're just having to make the workarounds in order to share those dashboards if we're not utilizing them as a view that's shared by everybody.
Thank you. And obviously, Steve, we are more than happy to jump on a call with you, sir, at a time that suits you to talk about this in more detail on a one-to-one. And that goes out to all of our customers. Greg and I spend a lot of our days on calls together with customers, pre and post sales situations. And that's part of the value add that we look to offer with Loop1, which kind of leads me, I guess, kind of nicely into the next slide in sequence that we have, which is actually, in fact, entitled How Loop1 Can Help. As I said at the top of the presentation, a lot of stats around who we are as a company, many years and many hours of combined experience. There's a tremendous amount of services within the Loop1 portfolio that we can kind of focus on here, broken down really into, as it says along the bottom, professional services, managed services, training. We have a dedicated renewals team all around the IT Operations Management kind of heading. If I look at this in a little bit more detail, you can see on the screen there 5 key solutions. One of the most popular ones that we do with customers, possibly because it's a free service, is the rapid report card. But in all seriousness, this is a very good, valuable piece of work that we do. Think of it kind of like an MOT for your SolarWinds platform, or a baseline reference. We offer these out to customers as and when they are required. A lot of customers ask us to do an assessment on the platform prior to maybe something like a migration project. Maybe you're looking at going from on-premise to cloud. You might be looking at doing some upgrades, making sure you're fully protected against any kind of possible vulnerabilities, or maybe just want to do a general check and an overview. We normally do this on a kind of a 3-session basis, where I tend to encourage customers who might be interested in a rapid report card to have a little bit of an open forum Q&A session with myself, somebody in the engineering team like Greg, maybe the renewals account manager, and all the key stakeholders from the customer side, so that we can get a bit of a heads up and an initial insight into how you're actually doing things. And then we'll go away and do a technical session to analyze the platform, and have a 3rd session where we look at the report in detail. So anyone that sounds to be of interest to, that isn't aware of it, hasn't had it done, or maybe wants to book it again, please obviously shout, let us know, get in touch. There is a link on the website for the rapid report card that will tell you more. Moving on from there, we have a much more comprehensive version of this, which we call the health check. Now, this is an engagement that takes place over several days. This is a chargeable service, and it generally lasts for about a 3-day session. I say generally because sometimes it's more comprehensive than that. Greg, maybe I could sort of, fall back on your more advanced technical expertise to talk about this in a little bit more detail for me, if I may.
Yeah, so I mean, with the rapid report card and the health check, they are really comprehensive pieces of reporting. The health check is going to give you that much more in-depth view. We're going to look at very specifics and give you some real advisories on how to move forward in the monitoring maturity model, the line model. The rapid report card, yes, that's much more of a smaller insight, utilizing your Orion insights as well as spending some time discussing and looking around your platform to identify where your issues are, how you're using it, and they do focus as well as on platform optimization, on your monitoring maturity, and how to achieve the next levels up. The health check, I mean, it is a 3-day engagement typically, providing with some security checking as well, the certified secure Orion. So you do get a lot of information out of there, a roadmap to move forward with, and obviously the time with the engineer to get some knowledge from them and help move yourself forward.
Thank you. And again, you can see the term Lime services. We are going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in a couple of slides' time. It's Lime services is, as I say, really looking at kind of making sure what you have in place is feature complete. We also have an offering of a proactive managed service within there where you can actually outsource the entire management of your SolarWinds platform to us. And we have a couple of flavors of that service, ITOM Lite, ITOM Plus. So we'll go into those in a little bit more detail. All of this is obviously supported with our global professional services team. As the biggest partner with SolarWinds worldwide, we also have the largest team of professional services engineers. Again, I fall back to those stats at the start of the presentation. A lot of people will sort of buy a block, if you like, of managed service hours that can be called down as and when you need them, or professional services days. Ultimate flexibility there. We can go into the next slide, which looks at that in a bit more detail. So I guess when it comes to professional services, these are 4 of the key areas that we look at. The rapid report cards and the health checks very often produce recommendations of, say, remedial actions. Greg, who usually puts these together for us, does go into a lot of detail, tries to highlight any areas that we think would be beneficial to getting more from the platform. So we can look at deploying those remedial actions for you if you don't have the resources in-house. Customization is a big thing. We also have our own DevOps team. A lot of people fall back on us for things like specific dashboard setup, configuration, layout, maybe integration with things like ServiceNow, whatever kind of ticketing support system that you're using in-house. That seems to be becoming more and more popular recently, and general kind of optimization. So that slide really just gives you a bit more in-depth kind of overview of some of the key areas where our professional services team may or may not be able to help you further. We've now got some more detail, just keeping an eye on the time. We've now got some more detail around each of these particular services. If you like, Greg, what I'll do is I'll give a quick overview. Maybe you'd like to sort of jump in with a bit more technical detail on each of these. So again, the rapid report card, health checks are kind of nothing new. I mean, we've been doing these for years, but we adopted the methodology within Loop1 of the rapid report card. It's been running under that kind of description now for about 2 years. It's proving forever popular. We've honed the service and we've got it running to what we think now is a really good kind of slick process. We make it as simple as possible for the customer to engage with this. As I say, it is actually a free service, so that gets over any kind of budget hurdles or procurement. We're not set up with you as a new customer on your procurement session, then that doesn't become an issue. We can just book this in with the technical team. And as I said earlier, it's really like a three kind of process generally, where we have a bit of an open forum Q&A to describe how it works, any issues you might be having at the moment, any areas specifically of interest that we can focus on, go away, do the technical assessment, come back and have a really good kind of at least an hour session generally where we go through the reports. Greg, maybe you'd like to add a bit of detail to what you tend to put together here, specifically around the reports and remedial actions?
Yeah, I mean, we do focus initially on your platform optimization, looking at the deployment that you've configured, the resources, the best practices that you followed for your SQL and your Orion. But then we do go in and we do have a good discussion around how you're using your platform, how are your alerts working, is there noise, is there not enough noise, are they being used, as well as looking at all the features as well. I mean, feature complete is something that I do strive to push customers for, to make sure you're utilizing all these additional features in the platform to get more value out. Monitoring is there to give everybody value. If people aren't feeling value from it or feeling like it's a burden, then the chances are they're not using the platform correctly. I always try to push and look for anything I can, and I make them bespoke as well by speaking directly with the people on the ground, as well as the management to make sure everybody is utilizing the platform as expected and they're getting the most out of it.
Yeah, excellent. And very often we find we talk to customers, there's been maybe a change of the guard, people that are working on the platform now. We had one the other day, I think the chap had been there 3 weeks. So, it was an ideal situation for us to kind of help him so that he was hitting the ground running, making sure that everything was up to date. They were looking at doing some upgrades. So it is, although it's free, it really is a very valuable piece of work. And it gives us a great opportunity to engage with customers. So I'd encourage anybody that isn't familiar with this to get in touch with us and see if it's something that they would like to discuss further. And then the kind of almost the big brother, if you like, of the rapid report card is our much more comprehensive SolarWinds health check. You touched on this earlier, Greg. Maybe you'd like to go in a bit more detail again for me, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, Jerry talked about Lime, and the health check is more focused around the Lime initiative, to make sure that we're identifying, we're reviewing what's going on, and assessing where you sit in the state in the monitoring maturity model, which will help us identify the next steps to reach the next level. Take it in bite-sized chunks, plan it out on a roadmap, and recommend everything that we can to help see you to get to a better state. And alongside of that, we do the remediation actions for that as well, should the client need to. Obviously, it tends to be things that you want to take away and do yourselves. But there's a lot of times where people haven't got the time or haven't got the expertise to be able to optimize their platform to the best level they can. And that's where we definitely help out here with the health check.
Fantastic. And the health check now also even includes this. This is one of our newer services, which is proving to be increasingly popular. I guess unsurprisingly, we're living in a world of ever increasing threats, unfortunately. So anything that we can do to help our customers be increasingly protected, make sure they're not a victim of a vulnerable sort of attack. And this is now actually included as part of the health assessment. So again, there's details. You can see the link on our website there. So that's something that it's exclusive to us. I don't believe any other company is offering this service. So we're quite sort of proud to offer that out to make sure that everybody is bang up to date and protected with their platform. This is handled really by the licensing renewals. As I'm sure pretty much all of you are familiar, when you buy a SolarWinds product, it's generally, not always, there are SaaS models now and have been for some time, but it's generally and traditionally a perpetual license. It comes with maintenance. What does that give you? Access to a global team for any technical support issues, and obviously to make sure that you are bang up to date with latest versions. Again, to protect against vulnerabilities and making sure you're getting all the latest features from the product. We have a dedicated team that manage these renewals for you. I'm sure most of you have been in touch with them at some point or another. So we try and make this process as easy as possible. Our team will generally get in touch with people 90 days prior to any expiry of licensing that you had, so you get plenty of notice to get the renewal done. You don't want to be in this situation, obviously, where a license is expired and you need support and it's not covered. So we obviously work hard to prevent that ever happening. There's a couple of flavors of this. We have a standard support offering, but we also have an enhanced package, and that includes a lot of these services that we've been discussing today, such as the health check. And we also sort of bundle in access to some of our training resources, which is pretty extensive and increasingly so. So this is a snapshot, if you like, of just some of our training courses. If you go onto our website, you can see the link at the bottom of the slide there. You will find a very, very long list of classes. This is growing all the time. Even our own CEO now, Bill Fitzpatrick, is involved in this program of training. He used to be a SolarWinds trainer, so he's kind of gone back to his roots there. Bill's classes are fantastic. He's got so much experience, and he's quite a visionary kind of guy, so he makes it very interesting, as do all the trainers. And these courses can vary from basic kind of looking at standard stuff like how to get the best out of your alerts and your reports, through to our flagship course that we have, the Orion 101, and that pretty much teaches you everything you would ever need to know about the SolarWinds platform. And then there are more advanced versions of that with 201 and 301. It's also worth pointing out, I think at this point, there's an increasing popularity with bespoke training. The syllabus-based training courses are brilliant, providing, of course, that the content fits what you want to do, and the dates and times work around your availability. We can also offer a great deal of flexibility with this. Something that I find very popular is bespoke training, where we can set up a day or maybe just a half day with a customer group, and we can deliver that. It's generally virtual. I don't think we're really too much still back into the world of on-site physical training. I'm sure and hope that will come fairly soon. But generally, most of this is delivered virtually, either using our own lab systems, or maybe we can deliver this on your own platforms, which very often works quite well as well. And we can look at doing knowledge trading, which is transfer, which is kind of a combination, if you like, a hybrid version of the two. So a lot to look at there with training, and some of that is bundled in with our support packages. Helen, any questions we can see popping in? I take a moment there to breathe.
Not at the moment, Jerry.
No, we're good to go. Okay, and we've got about half an hour left on the session, I believe. So okay, let's talk about Lime. This is a big discussion. We could spend the whole day just talking about Lime, to be honest. So we're just going to today, I think, touch on it as an overview and pick this up with anybody that may want to discuss this further. As I said, we're familiar with this, and I think when you explain things to people, just try and take a step back and put yourself in someone's shoes where maybe it's new to them, they're not sure what Lime is or what it means or what it stands for. So as you can see at the bottom, the full description is the Loop1 monitoring maturity model, which gives it a little bit more kind of indication of what we're talking about here, abbreviated to L1M3, which is kind of the technical guys having a bit of fun, which we then decided to call Lime, hence the marketing that you can see on here. So what we're actually physically looking to do is to drive monitoring maturity. We talk to all kinds of customers with all kinds of setups, with all kinds of tools, not just SolarWinds. And what we're trying to do is to work with those technologies and the tools and the people that are involved with them, to try and help people get the best from their investment. So as we see at the top there, we're going from kind of, our goal is to try and help take you from what might be an ad hoc state into what we class as an insightful state. So we do this really with using the combination of professional services, things such as the rapid report card and the health check, the certified secure Orion that we talked about earlier. You know, these are all parts of the package, and you know, look at doing a complete kind of assessment on your platform to bring you to this insightful state. Lime Services itself, we have a proactive version of this, which we can break down into two key areas. I'll go into that onto the next slide. But this is our proactive managed service offering, where we can take on the complete support and management of your monitoring tools. So it gives you kind of a breakdown of where we are with this. The actual service deliverables that we have around Lime services. We have ITOM Lite and ITOM Plus. You can see some of the deliverables that we have on the screen there. One of the key differences between these really, ITOM Plus is an all-inclusive package, unlimited professional services, unlimited training, whereas ITOM Lite, there is an element of kind of pay as you go, so it's a cheaper upfront sort of cost, but there's a lot of crossover between these two, and it's all about supporting you as a proactive service. Greg, anything you want to add in there? Any kind of sort of further in-depth technical analysis of the Lime services?
I mean, I think you've covered it there. ITOM Lite, really good. If you're not requiring that additional amount of PS throughout the engagement. ITOM Plus, if you know you're ready to throw everything at us and we can build and do exactly as you need. Really good products, and I would advise, you know, looking into those if taking a managed service role is something that you're looking into.
Yes, thank you. I think we have a bit of a world exclusive today as well, because I understand there is actually the self-assessment tool is going to be launched in 2022. Is that correct, Helen?
That's correct, Jerry. Sneak preview.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, so pleased to announce that. So look out for that. I'm always rather proud of our website, actually. I think it's a brilliantly laid out and constructive and informative site. Obviously, I work with it every day, so I know where to find things. But if anybody's not sure and they want some information, please always feel free to reach out to us. But I do adopt a habit of you know, sending links through to people with key information on there, because there is a lot of it and it's kept up to date very well. So, so please always go to our website to check out the latest news, technologies and information that's available. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the presentation itself. So we've got one more slide here, which is talking about sort of on-demand webinars. I mean, we run a lot of webinars, and obviously there's a recording of this one today, which will be made available to you. A couple of recent ones that you may want to log on to while you're having your lunch or something. The whys and wherefores of monitoring the monitoring platform. This is something that's focusing really on tools within the Orion platform to actually monitor how the solution is performing itself. So that's something that may be of interest to people out there. The other recent webinar that we had, which was with our CEO, Bill Fitzpatrick, called the Observability and Monitoring. You know, this is obviously key to Charles's presentation that we had earlier on, talking about the sort of shift, if you like, from monitoring to observability. So I think that will be of interest to a lot of people. Shift from sort of monitoring, where you're looking really at how the legacy infrastructure is working, is operating, to more cloud-centric observability. I believe there is also, within that particular webinar, a fairly big section on Lime. Bill, you know, can explain that in a lot more detail than we have today. Yeah, probably worth spending a bit of time logging on to those and catching up on some of the webinars that we've done recently. Okay, just leaves me really to say thank you for attending today. That is actually the end of the presentation. I think we're probably going to open things up to see if there's any sort of further questions. We seem to be a little bit ahead of the time, so either I've not gone into enough detail or I've just been talking too fast. I don't know which, but hopefully it's been of interest to people that have joined us. Helen, shall I just pass over to you there for a second?
Yep, happy for you to do that, Jerry. So actually, I think we might have just had a couple more questions come in.
Excellent.
I'm seeing one more, probably for Greg to answer. Let me just see if I can pull up the chat panel a little bit more. So yeah, actually, thank you, Steve. Steve, we appreciate your questions today. I think you've kept the chat going here. So yeah, so question from Steve around licensing can be difficult to understand and to realize full value when an MSP trying to assure separation of multi-tenant customers, remote pollers. I know we have a light version of a poller, but this still has a break-even point. We are restricted from utilizing full license potential value due to the multi-tenanted aspect. Have other MSPs mentioned this, and is there anything that is being worked on to assist? I'm not sure whether that's something that Greg, are you in a position to answer that?
I mean, the Orion platform is not, I wouldn't say is a necessarily the biggest MSP platform. I know we partially took Enable for a while, which was more of the MSP sort of business, which is now split from us. There are options there to make it work using the remote pollers and Orion remote collectors. They can make it much cheaper to implement an MSP style of platform. The other option there is to keep it on-prem, but again, you're not going to have that separation of platforms without using the enterprise operations console as a conduit to merge all the platforms together. We can definitely talk further about licenses, Steve, if we want to go further into it and see what suits around your current challenges.
Okay, thank you very much. And I believe, Helen, as it says on the screen there, we're going to be early Santa Claus, aren't we?
Yeah, early Santa Claus. So yeah, just obviously as a thank you to everyone for joining us today. We will, as well as sending you a copy of the recording and the slides that we presented today, we'll be including a £20 Just Eat voucher. So I hear Subway have got some nice Christmas meals on offer at the moment. So yeah, have a little lunch on us.
Yeah, we're promoting obviously the health benefits of Subway there, and I'm sure there are other sandwich vendors out there. It's this kind of thing you're supposed to say these days, isn't it?
Absolutely. Apparently, they have a very nice Christmas brie Subway. So
you're making me hungry as I haven't had lunch yet. Okay. Any other questions there? Are we going to open up the phone lines doing my DJ bit, or are we going to leave things there?
Happy to if people want to ask questions. Can't see anything coming through at the moment, Jerry, but we're obviously happy to take questions offline as well. If anyone wants to drop us an email, yeah, we're happy to do that as well.
Okay. Well, I might take the presentation off the screen. Is Charles still with us? Sure he is.
I think he's dropped off now.
Yeah, I think he's dropped off as well. Okay. Okay, well, I think then in that case, we'll end things there and give people back a bit more of their day. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope that was beneficial. As I say, there will be a follow-up of the recording, and so it gives you a chance to watch that again, and please feel free to share. You've obviously got our contact details, so if there's anything further required, and I expect there'll be a follow-up from the likes of myself and Glenn, just to see if we can help out any further. For those that we don't speak to before, I'd like to take the opportunity now to wish you all happy holidays, as it says on the screen, Thank you for attending. Appreciate your support.
Thanks, everybody. And if
Thanks,
you could
guys.
just, if you could just complete the feedback survey when you leave as well, it should pop up in your in the window as you exit today's webinar. Really appreciate your feedback.
Brilliant. Thanks
Thanks, everyone.
everybody. Hope to see you again. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.